And tonight we're focusing on the campaigns for both the NDC and the NPP. As you know, the two protagonists in the case, I'm talking about John Dramani Mahama and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. They are both now on the campaign trail. This is the season proper and it's here. And we're going to be looking at the promises that have been made by both sides. We're going to be analyzing, comparing and contrasting both sides. Both of the parties have some big ticket items that they have promised to deliver if they win. We're going to be trying to unpack all of them for you here on PM Express. And I have just gentlemen to do that. We'll be talking to the Director of Legal for the NDC and the Chief Campaign Spokesperson for the Bawumia team, Miracle Sabwaji Dennis, will also join me for a conversation. Before that, we'll also go through for you what we've been picking up in terms of the campaign trail so far, the number of promises made so far, and where both of them appear to be focusing on. One of the things we've also been paying attention to, the campaign styles and how they are deploying these campaign styles at this time. You will notice when we begin to go into the specifics that they are very alike in what they're doing right now. None of them have decided to go on the do rallies just yet. They are targeting groups, meeting focus groups and selling the promises to them. Why is that though? We'll get into that for you here on PM Express. When I return, my guests will get into the facts. And then I'll also give you a sense of what we've picked up, just by way of giving you a global picture of how both sides are approaching this and where they're pitching their camp when it comes to the ideas that they believe will win the day for them on December 7th. Stay with me here on PM Express. So the campaigns have started. Let's try and unpack the competing promises. After all, this is a campaign that is going to be dependent on ideas. It is a competition of ideas. And we're seeing both parties doing exactly that, both John Mahama and the Vice President on the campaign trail doing exactly that. But as you know, there are some differences. Bawumia is still yet to announce his running mate. We'll try and get some clarity on the timelines for this. There are many who say it is the Energy Minister who has already been selected. We may hear an announcement very soon, possibly this month. I understand there's possibly a NEC meeting tomorrow that may consider this. We'll get into that and see if we can get a clearer picture as to when we can expect an announcement. For the NDC, they already have their running mate. The ticket is complete, and they are both now on the ground campaigning. Both Jane Opoku-Agyeman and John Mahama are very aggressively campaigning. What are they been talking about? And that's the focus for tonight's conversation. A few of the things that we've also looked at also goes to talk about the approach that they're adopting. You see the door-to-door campaign style that was pretty famous under John Mills. And I covered the John Mills campaign. I remember walking with him here in Accra, going from door-to-door, home to home, where he wanted to take his message to the people there. I remember following him in Latabi Okoshi, for example. He made it very famous. And we see a bit of that with the current vice president also going into homes. When he traveled to the north, for example, and went to his home region, he did a bit of that. We've seen also rallies are completely absent right now. Everybody is now focusing a bit more on what you see there on your screens, targeting a few of the specific groups, targeted meetings. There are no television ads right now, for example. So there is a very interesting strategy that both of them are adopting. The vice president has been meeting with the chiefs. He's met with some associations already. We've seen the former president also do same in terms of who he's meeting. He's meeting the associations, is selling his message and telling them tailored messages that will deliver, he believes, for their members. If they are interested, he can get their vote. But why are the two campaigns adopting this approach? Maybe they can give us an insight into that. And then you see, for example, the vice president, his focus quite a bit on going to the clergy and religious institutions. Why is that? Of course, he's the first Muslim to lead one of the two main political parties, in this case, the NPP. And so we counted a fair bit of visits. He's been to the Vatican, he's been to the clergy in Takrady. Almost everywhere he's been, he wants to meet the clergy. And we've been counting the sheer number of times that he's done this across the country. And that figure tells you a story of where his focus is. And he's also very acutely aware of his religious backgrounds. And many believe that will play a role, because Christians will have to make a consideration whether they vote for a Muslim or not. And that is definitely going to be an issue. And no wonder he's gone to all these religious bodies and institutions and the clergy over the time that he's been campaigning. And then also, you see that if you look at the sheer number of promises that have been put out there by both parties, we've so far been counting. We have this sheet that tracks the promises made so far. Bawumia is at least 52 promises ahead of JM, who is 43 promises, right? If you look at the period that we've been tracking this, February 2022 to date for Dr. Bawumia, and then you look at JM, John Mahama, from January 2023 to date, 43 promises. So the vice president is leading quite significantly there. If you look at the period, because JM has a pretty short period, you know, he has a short period, JM has a longer period in terms of our monitoring there. And that definitely is interesting. How many of these promises can you really deliver? There's some things that are very similar. And one of the things that we notice instantly is a number of ministers that both gentlemen say they will superintend over if they are elected. You have the John Mahama going first, telling us that he will do not more than 60 ministers. And then you have the vice president say he will do 50 ministers plus deputies. That already is a competition there. Because of the situation we have with the current government and the criticism they've had with the elephant-sized government, it resonates with voters and civil society and the middle class. You really want to tell them this, and both of them seem to be competing there on this particular subject also. And then you go to some of the promises that we've been counting, right? Similar promises, for example, that both of them have made is reduction in the size of government, which is just appointed to the prudent management of the public finances. Also, the e-levy is an issue for both of them too. They all align in saying they will abolish it. Cities depreciation is something that both gentlemen, again, agree something needs to be done there. The way they diverge is how do you exactly deal with the problem of the city? And then you also see another set of promises that we believe are also the same or similar. Addressing affordable housing is one of them. And then traditional leaders. The vice president, for example, has been meeting the traditional leaders and is making promises to them about getting them more involved, but also within the the issue of illegal mining. Both of them have made promises around that. And then reducing import duties. That is an interesting point we'll explore when we sit down. The LGBTQ matter is also raging, and both sides almost have a similar position on that particular matter also. I mean, and this is something that we'll build on as we move towards December 7, right? And we'll be talking about that. If you look at the Bawumia promises, some very specific ones, for example, you want to train 1 million people. You also want to pay chiefs a monthly stipend. Some criticize that. You also have a cut in government expenditure by a whopping 30 billion is what he's talked about. Some specific ones there. JM also has his own very specific ones. You know, the 24-hour economy is something that he's been championing. It appears to be a flagship. One of the things I want to ask both gentlemen when we sit down, in the past, in all campaigns, there's just 1 or 2, 3 top promises that define your campaign. What is it for the NDC and what is it for the MPP? I'm interested in that. And then we can begin to unpack that. And we'll be joined also by, as you know, a good friend of ours who's been watching this sometimes far away from the UK. He's the political risk analyst, Dr. Phyllis Champon, will join us and give us his own take and perspective on the matter. Please stay with me. My guests, after this quick break. So let's have a conversation now. In the studio with me, as I said earlier, is Miracle Sobwaji. He is the lead spokesperson for the vice president's team, the MPP presidential candidate, the man who obviously has been touring the Greater Accra region this week, Dr. Bawumia. And he's in the studio with me. He's taking a break from the campaign. And the thing about campaign seasons is that they rarely sleep. And so when I see them, I have a certain sense of these gentlemen are really working very, very hard. And Dennis is here with me. And so, obviously, as a man who you've had in court ply his trade there, and then he also gets to come into the studio to talk. I wonder when they get time to really rest, you know. But he's also here with me, Ediji Tamaklo. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, how exciting has the campaign been? You guys are relaxed in the studio, but I know it's far from relaxed for you gentlemen.
I guess the only time we get to rest is being in the studio.
I guess.
Well, that's
I guess actually
that's when I also get to work.
Yeah.
So
we're just trying to make the best. Time is of the essence. We have barely 6 months into the election, and you know, in the case of Ghana, the election is on the 7th of December. So what it means is that you just have to be clinical. You just have to go for what you want and deliver on the specifics relative to the campaign numbers. So in our case, as you're aware, we are done with the naming of the running mate.
You've adored her?
We have done that. What is left for us is to put our campaign in terms of the manifesto out there, put up a campaign team, and I am aware that there's been frantic effort to put a draft of the manifesto and other things, as you know, as late as I think last month. So you can see a certain urgency to get everything to be online.
And Miracles, let me start with you. I mean, every campaign you have topmost 3 big issues that will define your message. What is that for you? What are your flagship, I guess, proposals to the electorate this year?
Well, I think Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been quite heavy on building industries and working with the business community so they can have some freedom and respite to expand, employ more, do more, and then also help to beat the pricing challenges within our economy. And he's been trumpeting that for a very long while. He's had engagement with the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's made the GUTA, he's made the AGI, and he's been at the forefront of his conversation, especially when it comes to issues of tax reforms, where he believes strongly that we need to be able to have some radical reforms in our tax regime, introduce a lot more digitization in the space so we can reduce leakages and also ensure efficiency, which would eventually lead to a lot more people getting into the brackets and then lead to reduction in some areas. He's already given indication of specific taxes that he believes that we need to be able to get off so we can give respite to the people. He's spoken about the e-levy, spoken about the betting taxes. He's also had given strong indications about how he believes our mineral resources, our natural resources will be harnessed on going into the future, especially how we would ensure that a lot more Ghanaian ownership of our natural resources, which would strongly also lead towards holding onto most of our minerals resources to back our currency. The fact is, Evans, if you look at our economy clearly, if we're able to have a hold on our currency issues, the ripple effect is quite great. I mean, fuel prices are high because our currency is struggling against the dollar. And once fuel prices go high, it has a direct effect on prices of goods and services. And, you know, that's where the rippling effect is coming from. And it's been quite heavy on harnessing our natural resource, especially when it comes to gold, to back our currency and give it a bit more, you know, strength.
So if you are to bullet it, for example, I mean, the last time when he ran with the current president, you could free SHS, headline, 1 district, 1 factory, headline, 1 village, 1 dam, headline, and then you can now get the details from each. How would you bullet his?
So he's mentioned the tax reforms. He's mentioned the tax amnesty. He's mentioned the mining, especially the natural resources.
What is he saying he would do?
Basically, to ensure a lot more Ghanaian ownership and ensure that we hold a lot more of our minerals here to back our currency and give it the strength that it needs. And the fact of the matter is that once that is achieved, the rippling effect is quite huge. He's also mentioned how he believes that going into the future, what we've built as a foundation for education needs to be consolidated and built upon. And he's looking heavily at ensuring that we move towards the next level of education in this country to be ready for the fourth industrial revolution. In the industrial revolution, he is speaking about how he believes that persons with disabilities must be given the support they need to have free tertiary education. And that's a progression from the free secondary education that we are seeing, which would eventually dovetail into other areas. What Dr. Bawumia has done is, in all his engagement, he's been talking to specific stakeholders and discussing with them and tailoring for them specific solutions to their challenges. He's met the fisher folk. They've diagnosed the issues, where we've come from, what we've been able to do, where we are now, and what the future looks like. And in all of these things, in some places, they've sought to refine or make input into some of the ideas he's come up with. And we believe strongly that for every sector of our society today, he has quite clear a vision for each of these sectors. I mean, you mentioned the stipend for the chiefs. I think I need to clarify. You know already, as a country, we have some allowances for our paramount chiefs. Okay. It used to be 400 cedis. This government moved it to 1,000 cedis. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's view is that we need to integrate our traditional authorities a lot more into the developmental drive. And so why don't we rope in divisional chiefs? And so I want that to be.
So this for divisional chiefs?
Divisional chiefs and queen mothers. So currently what we do as a country is for paramount chiefs. And that has been in existence for a while now. And so his proposition is to rope in divisional chiefs and queen mothers. Okay. Because I mean these are people who are at the base of our.
Will you tell me how much you're paying them a stipend a month?
Well, I mean at the moment it used to be 400. It's been increased to 1,000 cedis for the paramount chiefs. And so let's talk about that for now. But the key thing here is that divisional chiefs are not currently part of the regime, and neither are queen mothers. And he's proposing that he brings them.
Okay, if the paramount chiefs are getting 1,000, how much is he proposing to
he hasn't mentioned, but he's bringing them.
Let me put that same question to Eduju then. Eduju, your top three ideas.
Evans, having regards to the distraction caused to the economy in the past 7 years, it is clear that anybody that takes over from this incompetent administration must focus primarily on revamping the economy. So top, we have the 24-hour economy policy proposal. And we have no doubt at all that with this policy proposal, it will provide the needed catalyst to revamp the economy. And thankfully, you have had the TUC, you have had GUTA, many other civil society groups say that the 24-hour policy program, if done, would have or will become a game changer. And I strongly believe in that as well. We're also looking at the 1 million coders program.
1 million coders program?
Yes.
What's that?
Basically, you know the issue of coding.
Okay.
We want
coding?
Yes. We want to assist as many as 1 million young people to engage in this business. And it have manifestation in our 2020 manifesto as well, and we are going to repeat. Another issue had to do with the free primary health care system. And we strongly believe that once you have an improved economy, the next thing that you should be looking at jobs, 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 and jobs. And after that, it's about the health of our people. And so we also have the issue of the free primary health care system that we want to introduce, and it's something great. Now, we've also decided to do what you call micro-targeting the campaign conversation. It cannot be the case of one-size-fits-all, approach. So you have the issue where we are going to establish a dedicated bank for women. Today, you notice that the owners of property tend to be men in the various households, especially with our cultural dynamics. And so it is always difficult for a woman to get to the bank, to get bank facility, because usually the traditional banks will ask you for collateral. And the women have been found to be wanting when it comes to that. So we want to have a dedicated national bank for women to look at the peculiar circumstances of women. And we strongly believe that with the role that women play relative to economic development, if we have that kind of dedication, it will help greatly. As we speak today, one of the common features that you see had to do with the increasing prices of petroleum products. The visionary John Dramani Mahama, in setting up ESLA, provided in Section 6 of the ESLA Act what is called a Price Stabilization Fund. And the reason for the fund, that in times of crisis like we have, you would use the Price Stabilization Fund to cushion the hardship associated with increasing petroleum prices. Regrettably, this administration came and decided to divert the proceeds or the receivables that goes into the Price Stabilization Fund. We want to dedicate the Price Stabilization Fund to exactly what it was meant for. Another issue had to do with the abolition of the licensing exams. I attended a law school. I did not finish law school to take another exam to become a lawyer. I wrote the law of evidence. I passed. I wrote 6 papers in part 1. I passed. I moved to part 2. Can you imagine that? Persons within the various, training colleges, now we call them colleges of education, they do about 48 courses to become a teacher. So why not integrate the pre-qualification examination as part of it? And so that you do not need a stand-alone examination for the purpose of getting people to do that. And first of all, we want to abolish the ex gratia. It is so keen for H.E. John Dramani Mahama because he strongly believed that having experimented the 1992 Constitution for over 30 years, the time has come that we must stop it, and he wants to stop it. Now, I think I want to make this
I said 3, but none of you really stuck to that, I guess.
Yeah. But there is another issue very dear to us. Remember that from 1992, and sometimes with the passage of time, people tend to forget, from 1992, or maybe from independence, it was difficult to have Muslims, right, associate a holiday to the 2 Muslim festivals, Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. It took Jerry Rawlings in 1996 to make those 2 festivals public holiday. We strongly believe that we need to give additional public holidays for Muslims. And it is a very key campaign promise that we...
So you're giving more holidays to Muslims?
Yes, because you see...
How many more holidays?
The list will be 2, the list. And
so they currently have 2 already?
Yeah, I mean additional.
So you have 4?
Yes.
At least?
At least.
Why?
And you see, the reason is that, you see, you and I, we are Christians, right? We have the benefit of Easter. You have Easter, Good Friday. You have a picnic. Now, Christmas, you have Christmas itself. If it falls on even a weekend, the next working day becomes, and then New Year. So Christians have about close to almost 5 public holidays associated. We do not think it's fair. Where a Muslim does his Eid al-Fitr, the next day he's going to work. Christians do not go through that kind of arrangement. And we strongly believe that we need the politics of inclusivity, where people should have that feeling they are part of a greater society. So it's a very key matter. No, and I mean, interestingly enough, I heard my brother Miracle says, Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia is going to abolish e-levy. I mean, it's one of the most, I don't know how to describe it, that I've heard. Where in this case, Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia himself, as the chair of the economic management team, proposed the e-levy as a flagship tax policy initiative of this administration. In fact, at a point, we were told that e-levy was going to resolve all the problems we have in the country. Strangely enough, the very people who proposed it are now telling us that they are going to abolish it, simply because H.E. John Dramani Mahama in April 2022 at the Ghana at the Crossroad engagement told Ghanaians that he's going to abolish the e-levy. And when he made that point, the MPP poo-pooed it, that he didn't know what it's about. Strangely today, we wake up one morning, then Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia comes and says, I am going to abolish.
Because he's articulating his own vision, not that of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
But you see, if you go to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's campaign website now, he puts out there that he, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has been at the forefront of policy implementation by this administration. In fact, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo himself had made the point that he had to bring Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on the ticket to help with the vision on how to resolve our economic challenges. So therefore, that U-turn, that Paul, on the way to Damascus, behavior, creates an impression that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, one, cannot be trusted, comes across as a person who is never responsible for anything. And anytime you have a leader who cannot stand and man up and own a vision, it becomes problematic. It should be yours.
But you agree it needs to be abolished?
Which one? We have made a point right from the beginning. We never saw the need. And before, I'll just conclude on this. Look, we have said last year alone, GRE raised 113 billion Ghana cedis. That's over $6 billion. We've always believed that the problem of this country is not lack of money, but its management. And that, but for the imprudence, but for the wasteful and corruption and all of those matters that have bedeviled this economy, wouldn't be where we are today. So that point ought to be made very clear.
Miracles, he's made the point about the e-levy. He says you don't have the credibility on it, although you also say you're going to abolish it. Quickly address that for me, and then we'll go to the substantive issues that you laid out.
It's getting very boring, the way the NDC go about their campaigning. And it's quite obvious. It's the reason why today, if you go out there, you realize that the people are struggling to find coherence in exactly what it is that they bring to this country going forward. I mean, this is a former president. It's a gentleman that had the opportunity to do all the things he's promising us to do when he becomes president. It's like saying, you made me president, I should have done them. I couldn't do them. Make me president again to come and do the same thing I couldn't do. And for them, their escape routes is constantly picking on Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and misrepresenting the facts. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a member of cabinet. He's not president. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia did not pass e-levy. E-levy was passed by the Parliament of Ghana, proposed by the cabinet of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, of which Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a member of. The EMT doesn't take bills to Parliament for passage. He's a lawyer. He knows it. And so if you sit here and you make this conversation, you trivialize the issues. And I can ask simple questions. All the things that former President Mahama did not do, some of which he threw away, cancelled. Now he says he wants to be president. Is he going to cancel them? Is he going to cancel nursing and teachers' allowance? Is he going to cancel free senior high school, which he spoke against? A lot of his officers spoke against. Is he going to do that, or he has had a change of mind? So that level of contradiction and pick and choose is what makes it very, very difficult for us to engage the NDC on the future of this country. Evans, there is a reason why every country goes to the polls. It is because at the point in time where you are as a country, you need to go to the next level and make certain choices. There's a direct choice to be made between the former president, who was vice president, became former president, and became president, and the vice president that has never been president. And so if you're going to recount what you think a vice president who is part of a government has done and for which reason he shouldn't be president, then you have no business here advocating for a former president who put this whole country on its knees and on the ground. Children were left on the street of this country, over 100,000 of them. So what business do you have to come back into government? For 3 years out of your 4 years, you kept this country in darkness. What business do you have then to tell us that you want to be president again? For 3 years out of the 4 years, each of the macroeconomic indicators that you met in 2012, you brought down. So what business then do you have to be president again? That is why it becomes quite difficult. So you see, if I decide to go on this tangent, we'll lose the focus of the conversation. We are in 2024. Ghana is at a stage where Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has brought his presidency to an end. Whatever it is, what we have now is what we are looking at to chart into the future. You speak of your president. the man that has been president before, and you are asking us to vote for him again. Tell us cogently what it is that he felt he could have done in the past that he couldn't do, and for which reason we should trust him. Listen, this election comes down to one thing: credibility and integrity. Who we believe in. Because as for talking is air, like they say in Tree, you can sit here and talk about a million things. But the people just do not trust former President Mahama. Because he was president. He was vice president. He came to tell us in 2012 that I am a spare driver. Give me an opportunity to become president. And when I become president, I'm going to fix all your issues. What he did was to remove and take away all our social safety nets. And then he left. In fact, when we were complaining about all the challenges and difficulties we're facing as a country, he told us that he cannot be bothered. He told the medical professionals that he's not going to negotiate with them and that they can vote against him. Today, those medical professionals, the medical officer who was receiving 3,000 under former President Mahama when he was president, and they were complaining, and he said he's not going to negotiate with them, is taking 10,000 Ghana cedis. That person has a reason to vote. He's going to make a choice. The nurse who was left at home in 2014, 2015, 2016 without being posted, and when we came to office in 2017, was picketing at the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Finance, has a reason to vote. Give them reasons and stop this whole thing. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has never been president. That is a matter of fact. You have been president. And so if we are going to recount things like this, it's going to distract the entire voting population from the core of the issues. Because we can list a million things that you and your president promised us. He became president and failed to fulfill a single of them. What business then does he have to come and tell us to come and vote for him? Let's stick to the visions. Let's look at the future of this country. Tell us what your vision is. Let's calibrate it and test it. For example, they speak of a bogus 24-hour economy.
But he listed it, yes. He listed the vision.
I have told you, and I've said it severally here, that 24-hour economy is not a policy. It is an outcome. It's an end product. The policy are the specific things that you do. And we must be careful. The NDC are trying to hoodwink the entire country, deceive us into voting for them, and come to do nothing. Evans, you are wide red. 24-hour economy is an outcome of specific policies. So what are the policies?
But they have a document that explains how to deliver the 24-hour economy. There's a document that
Tiptoe Lane, it's just 100 meters away from here. Do they sleep? Do they sleep? When you go to Tiptoe Lane, 24 hours...
Isn't that trivializing the subject?
No, it is not. It is to tell you that...
The fact that people are awake doesn't mean that they are engaged in economic activity that is productive.
When you go to Tiptoe Lane, people are engaged in productive economic activities. When you go to the Oxford Street, that is people's economy. They work 24 hours. There are places in Obiche-Bilamte where you go, people are working 24 hours. There are pharmacies here on the Capri Street who are operating 24 hours. It is an end product. There is a factory in my area, Nutrifix or Nutrimix, who are operating 24 hours. As we speak, they are in the factory working. They will close in the morning at 7 a.m. So tell us something new. And if you're even not going to tell us something new, tell us specifically what you are going to do to enhance it. But don't come and throw something on minibus and us.
I'll come back to him. But the question, at least the NDC has a clear flagship message, which is 24-hour economy. Everything. Just a second. And then they have the others. But it's clear to me when I listen to them that they have one that it is their flagship. What's yours?
Tax amnesty.
Yours is tax amnesty. The
tax amnesty. Okay. And the tax amnesty amongst other things. And I've told you that, for example,
so tax amnesty
says that one of the key things we need to do is to widen the tax bracket. And we can do that through the digitalization system, where today we have a system where we have a national ID system that is connected all citizens. For which reason your ID is connected to your mobile number registration, is connected to your bank account, it's connected to your tax identification number, it's connected to your pensions, it's connected to your business registration, which is ensuring that we can get a lot more people into the bracket. Now, what this does is that we are now going to be able to have more people contributing towards the national kitty, for which reason we can reduce the tax burdens on the business community, which would free them to invest a lot more into their businesses and employ a lot more people. The rippling effect is on the economy. The rippling effect is on the economy.
But when you say tax amnesty, though, it's a very specific concept in tax administration. So I owe the GRA, you give me a tax amnesty. You say, although I have penalties, You forget about the penalties. We have an amnesty there, and then
I'll give you the reason.
Give me a fresh start.
I'll give you the reason. You go to the GRA today.
That's what you mean? Is that
exactly
what you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That with all these tax reforms that are being introduced, what you do then is to encourage people to come in, and there are a lot of businesses who want to actually contribute and pay their taxes.
So what outcomes you want to achieve with this?
Getting a lot of people.
So you want to increase the tax net?
Increase the tax net to enable us reduce.
But that's got to increase the tax net, though, because you're not diversifying it. Now, what you achieve with tax amnesty is that the existing people you're already taxing, who may have not paid and may have incurred penalties, are the same people who this will entice.
I have given you the entire value chain, and I've told you how the digital regimes that have been introduced are going to open up and bring a lot more people in. So very few people are going to be able to escape, because now you can be identified. Now you don't go work here and use a different tax identification number, work here and use a different tax identification number. Now if you work here, you are connected because your TIN is your Ghana card. And that automatically increases and opens up the net.
Okay, and I'll bring in Dr. Tue Champon very quickly, shortly, and so he gives me whether I'm coming to you. I'm not going to him yet. When I finish, I'll come to you. Don't worry at all. Tue will come in because I want him to give me a sense of whether the parties address the real issues of importance to Ghanaians. So, Doc, please stay with me for a second. I'll come to you for a second. I want to hear by the NDC's Director of Legal. So he has laid out what their flagship is, but he makes a point about your 24-hour economy, which no doubt is your flagship message. He says that is an outcome. How do you achieve 24-hour economy?
Very well. First of all, you cannot be here and say that 24-hour economy is an outcome. If you look at London, you look at Australia, it's a deliberate policy of government. As we speak today, whoever decides to work within the 24-hour space is doing it because he wants to do it. This is a situation where government of Ghana says, I want to make it a policy proposal, a policy, and look, we have even gone ahead to put up a policy document. At least it allows for reasoned engagement. I've always maintained, if MPP in 2016 gave Ghanaians the benefit of seeing a policy document on free SHS, we will not have today live to see double track.
You have a policy document on 24 hours?
At least we have put something. And in fact, you alluded to the point that...
that's
no,
what
but we are even putting a more comprehensive report.
So you don't have a comprehensive one yet?
No, but already we have put a document that tells you what exactly...
But what are the building blocks towards delivering 24-hour economy?
The building blocks are simple. We have always maintained that we have a situation where we are deliberately going to give tax incentive. For instance, we've raised the issue of time of use tariff arrangement so that if a company, through engagement, agrees that I used to do 10,000 cartons, I will do 20,000. Because of this arrangement, off-peak and off-peak, arrangement with electricity, we can just package an incentive for you so you can produce more. These are specifics that we have indicated. And you can see that within the entire value chain in the economy, we can do it everywhere. Look, and I give you this. Within the public service, go to the ports. After 7 p.m., we all go to sleep. Why should your port sleep? Why should the place where you have your licensing sleep when they can work? And we strongly believe that once you do this, you're going to create more jobs for our people. I just want to respond to something. Look, in 2018, this government, of which Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is a member, went to Parliament and passed the Tax Amnesty Act, Act 947 or so. So as we speak today, we have a Tax Amnesty Act passed by the Parliament of Ghana to address the issue of tax forgiveness. So how can that become your flagship program? For 7 years, you have implemented a tax amnesty program. And there is a law as we speak. So when you say that is your flagship program, I don't understand. Look, you see, the whole impression is being created as though Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was plucked from us. The man had been in charge of this economy for 7 years.
He's been in charge.
Yes.
There's a finance minister. There's a president.
No,
He's the vice president.
No, please. There had been a deliberate attempt, as it were, to take Bawumia.
But he's certainly not the man in charge of the economy.
He is.
How?
Who is the chair of the EMT?
But the EMT has no constitutional powers. The finance minister goes to parliament, reads the budget on the behalf of the president. It's defining the constitution. Okay. Who does that? So how you say that a vice president is in charge of the economy?
You see, nothing convicts a man faster than his own words. You recall Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the various public lectures that he organized. And I had Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on the campaign. In fact, he made a point, he said, Sidina ye hata hata. So he's bringing Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to come and help stabilize the Ghana cedi. At the time Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was making this statement, assuming it was even 4 cedis to $1. Today, as we speak, we are trading the Ghana cedi at almost 15 Ghana cedi to $1. Who is in charge? You heard Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia make the point. When in doubt, observe the exchange rate. At that time, when he gave 170 questions to Emisa Arthur, was it Emisa Arthur who was the president? Was he the president? So we will not allow a new script to be introduced where the impression will be created that it is Akufo-Addo and it is Akufo-Addo.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Theo Champong quickly.
Bawumia has been an integral part of the mismanagement that we have seen. And no attempt of sophistry would change that narrative.
And Doc, you've heard the two sides now. I'm sure you monitor the campaign trail. Are they addressing the issues of real importance to the Ghanaian people?
Good evening and pleasure to be here. And it's interesting listening to my brothers, Eduji and Miracles. I think, yes, to an extent, they all touch on various aspects of the issues that are of concern to the ordinary Ghanaian, and I'll come to that in a moment. But it's also important to stress the point that as we currently are, there is a growing dissatisfaction amongst many citizens when it comes to politics, and the outcome of politics being the ability to deliver good public services and improve their economic well-being. And you can see various data points to support this from Afrobarometer and other surveys that have been carried out, over the months and over the years, where increasingly the citizens are becoming disenchanted in terms of how politics is practiced, number one, but number two, that the politics is not necessarily improving their lot, but rather bettering the lot of a few people within certain circles. And this then gives rise to what I think are the two biggest factors that would drive or determine the outcome of this election. And both gentlemen actually touch on it in some respect. The biggest one, in my view, is the economy and the cost of living concerns. There are a number of surveys around, and I'm sure both parties have been polling, Ghanaians to ask about, their concerns. And consistently, you will see the issue of the economy manifesting, specifically 3 things under that: inflation, interest rates or cost of borrowing, and then the cedi, the forex rate, because that practically determines everything that happens to people's, living within the country, especially if you're living in some of the more urban settings in this country, where again the data shows that urban inequality actually is on the rise, and people are becoming more and more poorer by the day. And if you look at our demographic data, as the population announcing census shows, we are increasingly becoming more and more urbanized. So that urban vote would actually be a big determinant of this election and that is tied to the issue of the economy and the cost of living concerns. The second thing that would matter a lot to citizens, and I think it was Dennis also mentioned this, the credibility of the candidate and also their running mate, right? And this basically translates into two things under credibility. For me, the issue of loyalty and the issue of trust. So which of these candidates, given the economic issues that are bedeviling the economy, given the fact that there's a growing dissatisfaction with how we practice politics and the outcomes of that, would be able to fundamentally improve their lot. And you've seen, or you showed on your screen, a number of promises that the candidates, right, are already making. But if you, again, unpack it a little further, things to do with the size of government, things to do with social interventions, things to do with poverty eradication, corruption, youth unemployment, agriculture and reducing the food import sort of bill, tax reforms, the uncapping of the statutory funds. As we speak, many of those funds, GET Fund, District Assemblies Common Funds, the cap actually has been lowered. And in many instances, the amounts have been used to borrow certain funds for other government projects, and there are question marks around whether these things have actually delivered in terms of, value for money. And these citizens are asking fundamental questions around that within or amongst the two core personalities, who has the credibility in terms of loyalty and in terms of trust to be able to address those promises. The third point that I want to quickly make on here is both candidates are on a promise spree, and that is to be expected. But I think what we should also ask them more about is how they are actually going to fund, right, these 60 plus promises that we've seen, right, on average across the two candidates so far. I'm saying this because whoever wins the election and comes into power is got to deal with the issue of the limited fiscal space, right? And you don't have as much of those resources as you would want to be able to execute or finance these promises that they are making. So if you have that limited fiscal space available, and for example, we're promising to pay sub-chiefs and things like that, and we say you want to rope them into the governance process, you pay them, and what would they do? How do they actually contribute to improvement of, right, governance across the board in the country? Shouldn't the proposal maybe should be consideration about, okay, constitutional reforms? Some are talking about maybe a second house or tier. It comes with this bureaucracy, but there should be a more formalized approach to engaging the chiefs and other, stakeholder groups as part of the policy and the governance making processes. And I think for me, and perhaps for our media colleagues and others, the issue of how they are actually going to fund these campaigns becomes very, very, very important, because the money is just not there. And so we've got to be creative as to how they're actually going to deliver on these promises, and ultimately how it improves into outcomes, as I've mentioned, in terms of either reducing poverty and inequality and improving the general well-being of the Ghanaian, because as we speak currently, things are not that great.
Okay, so very interesting points there. The three issues: cost of living, the credibility, and how do you fund the promises. And I just want to wrap up with both gentlemen, just a minute each. Yes, Miracles.
I think for the purpose of viewers,
yeah.
So maybe Eduji hasn't read. Maybe too is read, but he's just being mischievous. So the GRA is not implementing any tax amnesty as we speak. As a matter of fact, in 2017, the GRA passed and instituted the tax amnesty for a period. That was in 2018. Indeed, even in 2021, they even passed, in fact, in 2021, they passed the Waiver of Penalty and Interest Act in 2021, 1065. So it is not true. It is never true that as we speak, the GRA has an act that is perpetually or running and implementing a tax amnesty. I think that is important because what he sought to do was to misleadingly create an impression. In fact, misleadingly create an impression as if there is an existing tax amnesty act that the GRE is utilizing. That is false, not true. In fact, they did this in 2018, it's ended. They did one in 2021, it's ended.
Who is the vice president?
Can you
just
no, I'm not the vice president.
Those are his last comments because we need to come back to wrap up.
It's just for the records. I mean, don't change the conversations.
Okay.
You
brought the act. You brought the act.
And
you're not denying it.
You have your turn to address it. Substantively. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. No, wrap up.
Mine is to just put out the facts and correct. Again, I think that going into these elections is a serious business for us in the NPP. That is why we've been on the ground talking to the people and articulating specific...
When will the manifesto itself be ready?
Specific plans and visions for specific categories.
Yes. When will the manifesto itself be ready?
I think, by the end of June, we should be getting ready.
You'll be outdooring it? The questions about costing and the outcomes and what problems you're addressing, what needs are you proposing, will be asked when we launch it.
We would respond to them. I think that if you listen critically to both candidates, I mean, former president had 8 years to articulate his policies. He's had 1 year as a candidate, and it's still difficult for the people to really
and I'm also interested
what it is that is going to do for us again.
Very quickly, what's the timelines now for the outdooring of your running mate?
It could be tomorrow morning, it could be next week, it could be next month, it could be September. I mean, Dr. Baumia himself was outdoored in September 2008. So leave us alone.
My goodness.
He was a candidate.
I'm asking, not him. I'm asking.
He was a candidate.
He's not asking. I'm asking.
He was a candidate for a year.
I'm asking.
And he took him a whole year.
I understand the next meeting tomorrow. Would they be considered there?
There's no such.
There's no meeting. Okay.
Let's allow the party people to also. It's important. It's interesting.
It's okay. I mean, so you won't tell us when. No problem.
Like it could be tomorrow. It could be next week.
Yes, that's the sense to say you not say. Okay. Yeah, Eduji.
I mean, I just want to conclude on this. Listen, this morning, on your own Joy FM program, one Charles Kusi Apiakubi of Guta was on the show. And this is what he said. He said, as we speak, there is no hope. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia is the sitting vice president. He had not resigned.
Dr. Baumia, your policy.
The mandate that he had been given is 8 years mandate. As we speak, you have not finished.
What is your policy?
So if you believe...
The mandate that Nana Addo has been given is 8 years.
You see, interestingly enough, the Ghana presidential ticket is not one-person ticket. And that is why, God forbid, when a president dies, you don't run a fresh election for his vice. He takes over immediately. In the superior wisdom of the framers of the 1992 Constitution, they were not looking at a mate. They were looking at a co-driver. So having led this disaster of an economy, a haircut economy, an economy with unprecedented unemployment rate, the least you can do is not to gaslight the people. It's to show remorse. You don't come and sit on TV and create an impression that you are a virgin who had just been put out there, that you don't know the problems of Ghanaians. You have been in charge. And listen, suddenly because the economy is bad, our friends in the NPP no longer call Dr. Baumia economic whiz-kid. That description of him had completely faded out. And that is why I have said on this platform that you need leadership that has credibility, leadership that is responsible. Why is Baumia running away from the economy? From 1992, Evans, have you seen any economy go through this obnoxious haircut before? I put this question to you.
So, where's the...
what's his policy?
I thought you were going to answer. I thought you were going to answer my question.
No, I'm not asking that. Where's the Muhammad going next to the campaign?
What's Mohammed's policy? Asking.
No. He's already talked about that.
I've listened about that.
Where is he going next? Where is he going next?
First of all, a person who believes that review means cancel.
No. That's not the question I'm asking. Where's Muhammad going next?
No, as you are aware, What we have done is to collate a view or views from people. We are putting a manifesto, the second chapter of our manifesto out there. We adore the manifesto, which is a critical matter for us.
But the candidate himself, what is he? What is
no,
his
he's
strategy going
engaging
forward? He's done the
groups.
groups. Okay,
No,
so
he's
still going to
engaging
continue.
groups.
Okay.
And for us, we strongly believe that the groups are key. He had met Guta.
Okay.
He had met AGI. He had met clergy.
He met the clergy
In fact, the last time he met...
So he will continue with that?
That engagement...
You're also going to do the same?
And for us, we want to retail the campaign. We want to retail the campaign.
Before you do the wholesale when?
And as I speak to
towards
you,
the end.
yes. Okay. And as I speak to you, the running mate herself
is also out there doing the same.
Also
just a second, let me also hear.
What is actually happening is that whilst Dr. Mahmoud Bamia is campaigning, your mama is complaining. That's basically what is happening. Thank you.
I mean, the serious issues of governance have been reduced to